Nothing breathes more life into a character than great voice acting. Even when handed a bad script, good voice acting buys credibility, and part of connecting with a character is believing they mean what they say. For all of the big dramatic moments that deserve praise, all of the screaming and crying, we mustn't also forget the ones in between. Both male and female VAs delivered in their roles this year, and we're excited to share our enemy's thoughts about them. Here are your nominees for Best Voice Acting of 2023.
これに懲りたら二度と会うに私たちに近づいてはダメいいか次はない
えは
入るのうちの芸能科入るの
いや一般化受けた。
なんでよ
この子たちをいい学校に入れたり習い事させたりいろんな選択肢をあげるには私がもっと売れて
はあ暴走して公爵家潰しかけた令嬢に言われたくないんだがおっていうかうちはいいのうちにはアルくんがいるからセーフ王家的には
みたいな大怪我と一緒で吐かずにいられるのは私ぐらいなものねとかとにかく嫌がらせの言葉が広い
殺すことやら怪物同士の殺し合いを自分だけは安全と高みの見物を決め込んだアホ
出たのに
もしもーしみつみちゃんそういう友情もあると思うんだよね
とっとと片付けろ俺は暇じゃねえんだ人を待たせてんだよ
And the winners for Best Voice Actor for 2023 for the jury is Tomoyo Kurosawa, Mitsumi Iwakura, Skip and Loafer. And for the voting public, Junya Inoki, Yuji Itadori, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
Now, I have to admit, I'm such a fake fan because Tomoyo Kurosawa is one of my favorite voice actors. She's obviously well known for being Kumiko in Hibike Euphonium. She's also Foss from Land of the Lustrous. And I had no idea that this was Tomoyo Kurosawa the entire time. It's so weird because I always think her voice is so recognizable. But I think in a way that almost lends credence to her voice acting prowess, the fact that she can so totally change and adapt to a role. What do you look for when you look for good voice acting? What does good voice acting mean to you?
I think that's a lot of it for me is, I mean, I do love a voice actor where you immediately recognize them. Like in the jury, the second VA there is Takehito Koyasu, who anytime he's in any anime, I immediately like, yes, Dio. Hello, Dio. Nice to see you. You know, he's a wonderful performer as well, but you can immediately pick up, that's Takehito Koyasu. With Tomoyo Kurosawa, I love her because of everything you just listed. It's just like, she has such range. Like this is not also, I didn't recognize her as Mitsumi when I first started watching Skip and Loafer, and it's such a wonderful performance as well. She's so energetic. She captures Mitsumi's character so well. But then you can turn around and be like, oh yeah, that's Rebecca from Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and it's a completely different character and a completely different performance. And that's why I definitely agree. I think she's, if not first, definitely up there in the top 3 for performances for me this year.
What really stands out to me too is just the show that it belongs to, right? So Skip and Loafer, right? You know, some people consider voice acting when it really jumps out at them. So they think about the big dramatic monologues and the crying, but Skip and Loafer, in comparison to all those, is a very subdued performance. Like a lot of the voice acting is in these kind of subtle little noises and hesitations that Mitsumi makes throughout the show. And I just really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that enhances the performance and something that I think a couple of our other nominees did well as well. Hina Yumiya from The Dangers in My Heart did a very good job with the little noises. She's always eating in that show. And then Sayaka Senbogi, as well as Anisfia, also is always like doing it's the little noises. I don't know why I've really like zeroed in on that, but it's like you kind of like, if there aren't these big dramatic scenes, it's like the little cute little noises that kind of like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this performance in my head.
What did you think, Chairman? What were you discussing while you were looking at these performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the jury, one thing that we value very highly is consistency throughout the show. So I think any good voice actor can pull out an excellent scene, and these are all pros at their craft, right? These are people who have trained way more than any of us have at this. They're already masters, but it is one thing to be good in one moment, but it's another thing to be good throughout the entire runtime of a show. And the thing that really impressed us about Mitsumi is that from the first second to the very last one, she never breaks character. Everything that she talks is just perfectly in the character of Mitsumi. Even her exposition and narration, which is usually something that a lot of voice actors will just like read the script, she like gives it the same kind of energy, the giddy, happy, like excitement that she brings to any other line. She'll bring that to her narration as well. And that was just something that really impressed us when viewing her performance throughout the show.
Now, for me, when what comes to voice acting as well is that it's not always in the control of the voice actor or actress. And what I mean by that is that you're given a script, you're given these kind of situations that your characters are put in, so you're given sort of opportunities to do with what you will. And I think that's really what elevates Yuji up to the public winner. It's just that I think in the season, he's being pulled which way in that he's been strained and he's been kind of shoved through the ringer, as it would. And I think that's partly what the public noticed with Junya Inoki's performance. Would you agree with that, Ian?
Yeah, it's obviously, I'm not surprised that he won. It was one of the more memorable performances for me from the last year, but also, the show is so popular. But for a part of the show that is so battle heavy, that is so, it's very popular. Everyone is really looking forward to it. I really think he took that performance up to another level from season one. I think season one, his performance was serviceable. It's quite good in certain scenes, but there's so much, I feel like we kind of disregard how hard it is to display, get the emotional anguish to come through in a voice performance, because so many of these VAs are so good at it that you kind of take it for granted that it's not an easy talent to be able to do that, not being able to show facial features, not being able to show like, physical emotion, and having to do it solely in a booth with your voice. And I think that's what makes his performance, particularly in some of those scenes in the second half of the season, that are just so gut-wrenching and so moving, that for me, he was definitely, I think, my winner for this season, or this year, I suppose.
I always thought, not to be contrarian or anything, but I've always thought Jujutsu Kaisen was like just fine, just okay, kind of basic shonen. But it's one of the scenes in the second part that you were talking about that really kind of made it click for me, kind of elevated the kind of situation, the kind of unique situation that Yuji's in, where he kind of has this kind of villain stuck within him that comes out every now and then, right? I think it's easy to think of Sukuna as this kind of like Deus Ex Machina power up, but then there's that one scene where he's just kind of in anguish of everything that's been wrought, that just made me really feel for Yuji the character, and it clicked all of Jujutsu Kaisen together for me.
It's the season that the scene that they ruined by playing the opening for some reason at the end of the scene, which is very frustrating because his performance is so unbelievable in that scene, and it just starts playing
Don't remind me. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Chairman, is there anything that you think deserves more of a mention? Maybe someone that's ranked low but otherwise had a really good performance, or maybe like a standout moment or anything like that?
I think voice acting is always a very difficult category every year because there's just so many performances throughout all of anime. We only get to play with 10 and really be able to highlight and shout out 10, but there's, every person who voice acts in an anime is already masters of their craft and really deserves recognition and praise for what they've done. Due to the constraints of this category, we try to showcase each voice actor or actress a single time to give room showcase more people. But due to that, there was a role by Takahashi Rie this year, which was Tomo from Tomo-chan wa Ononoko, which was really exciting. As the jury, we were very excitedly talking about this role and how it would probably be one of our favorites going into the nominations phase, only to find out that her wonderful performance in Oshinoko as Hoshino Ai usurped her position as Tomo. So because the public voted in Hoshino Ai, we were able to nominate her for her performance as Tomo. But I think that's all in well. I think she did a fantastic job as Hoshino as well. And it's kind of crazy how these voice actors and actresses can just the really good ones. They just every performance they bring is just on top of their game, A+. And we can't really showcase all of them here, but yeah, we do really appreciate each and every single one of them.
That brings up a question for me. How much were you taking into account? How do I phrase this? Rie Takahashi is an idol, like she's part of an idol group, or she was at least. Did you take into account singing ability, anything like that? Did you speaking of like Anya's performance, right? Did you take into account like the ability to speak like a child, or et cetera, et cetera? Like what were you looking for in the voice acting?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that a voice actor or actress brings to the performance, even if it's something that is not normally demonstrated in voice acting, we always take that into consideration. So for Hoshino Ai, definitely the fact that she performs, I think Sainwa B as herself in the show, we definitely considered that. As well as, like if you're in a fight scene and you're screaming on top of your lungs, that's definitely part of the performance as well. I think for somebody like Anya, one of the reasons so her baby talk is both her kind of defining characteristic, but also somewhat of a weakness because she doesn't have the ability to express herself anywhere else besides just that baby talk, which does limit her performance in some ways. I know that Tanizaki Atsumi has, a big range, but as Anya, she can only really believably perform just a small part of that, which does factor into our consideration of the performance and as a reflection of the voice actor's entire skill set.
Now, Ian, you're a first-time guest to the awards, and for that, I welcome you, and we're really happy to have you here. The kind of general purpose of why we bring guests on is almost to kind of check ourselves, because I think when you do kind of award ceremony like this, it can be very insular, it can be very kind of like yes-manny, like, over the years, there's kind of been this kind of jury core that's like, oh my god, that's obviously a jury show, and like Skip and Loafer is one of them, right? Like I know Skip and Loafer is an amazing show, but it's definitely something that like the public is more likely to like Jujutsu Kaisen. What do you think of our rankings? Like which one do you agree with more? Which one? What's your personal ranking? Does it fit along these lines?
So it's tough, right? Because I loved a lot of these performances, and I definitely agree that Tomoyo Kurosawa had one of the best performances of the year. And so I'm certainly not disappointed in the jury's selection for that. For me, I am probably more in line with the public coming in. I definitely were my top two performances were Inoki as Yuji and Rie Takahashi as Ai. And so seeing those 1-2, it's like, well, I suppose I am lining up a little more with the public there. But beyond that, like, I really think any of maybe I have those as my top three, and then any of the other ones really fit the bill. The only jury one I would say I disagree with would be the Takahito Koyasu. I think he's wonderful in Uncle from Another World, but it wasn't a performance where I was blown away. I was like, oh yes, this is like, he's very funny. Like that show was very funny, and I think his performance is very good, but it wasn't one that I had pinned down as one of my top performances of the year. But so other than that, for the most part, I think the jury and the public both got it right. That's my opinion on the matter.
Okay, good answer. Chairman, defend Takahito. Defend the jury. Do your job.
I'll defend Uncle here. So Kurasa Takahito's performance as Uncle is actually pretty interesting because the show started airing in 2022, but then because of delays was not eligible for awards. But last year's jury, because I was part of that, we were already talking about like, oh man, I can't wait to nominate Uncle. And then the show got delayed. So this year, I think the jury was very on top of like, all right, we definitely need to rep him. I think the thing that really stands out for us is that just like the energy and raw emotion he puts into his I don't even know how to describe it, like his panic attacks, his screaming, like he just goes so unhinged in these moments that you can almost hear the saliva kind of like frothing at his mouth as he's just like going 100%. There's this one scene in episode 11 where he's like really depressed that his fantasy world friends don't remember him. So he's like, I'm going to use the toilet. And then they're trying to get him out of the toilet. And he just lets out this like gut-wrenching scream, like blood curdling. And you can hear the spittle. And it's just those moments that like really live rent-free in my head. I'm just like, wow, this guy he's just going all out. It's crazy. So I think that's definitely where we are attracted to in terms of the performance. I do understand that overall his performance might seem a bit weak. Like sometimes when he's just talking to his nephew or to like the elf, he's not very emotive. But it's the high highs that they were just so crazy that we had to recognize that.
You know, I haven't seen Uncle in Another World. Uncle in Another World? Is that it?
Yeah,
Uncle
Isekai Oji-san.
Jackie. Okay.
Jackie.
I but your description reminds me of Hinakino's portrayal of Hanako from Asobi Asobase. The same sort of like just gremlin noise that comes out of her throat is unbelievable. Very very Sean Schemmel passing out in the voice with energy. But hey, you know, thank you guys so much for speaking with me about this. It's been a great time.
Yeah, and one last thing, I do want to shout out Aoyuki's performance in Apothecary Diaries. I know that's not eligible for awards this year, but it is. It would be in my top 3 of VA performances of the year if it were eligible. So next year,
Oh, you know we are on that next year. It's
100%.
amazing. Yeah.
Doing research, secret research on you. One of your latest videos is the best anime of fall 2023 was, and it's just a picture of Mao Mao. I was like, yeah, this dude knows.
It was.
We got to reinvite this dude. Anyway, you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.